And since it's 10 o'clock and since it is the last Thursday of the month, it's time to bring in our buddies from the at the USL Show. And this go around once again, we return with Kaylor Hodges. We return with John Morrissey. And it's fun with USL. And I know that a lot of folks in USL are probably sitting there looking at what happened last night in Kennesaw and going, see, USL and USL Championship.
I want to know how emotionally crippled Kaylor is after the Chattanooga game last
night. It's funny because I said in the middle of it was both teams playing really well. So it's not like I was upset the fact that I went to extra time against Chattanooga. Frankly, Chattanooga is way too good for NISA this year, and they're ridiculous. That was a lot emotionally for me. But you know what? Trevor Spangenberg is just a beast at saving PKs. It's just kind of what he does. And he's also in the form of his career. So I was weirdly confident going into PKs, which I don't think I've ever said in my life.
Yeah, we were sitting there like keeping up with the PK shootouts there in Miami, with the Miami FC.
The Miami FC.
Just because I was trying to explain to people in the press box that, first of all, Chattanooga and Birmingham's a rock fight, in the same sense that I was trying to explain to them that Cincinnati and Louisville is a rock fight. Like, that is just two people bare knuckle brawling on the ground, and you're lucky no one died.
Mm-hmm. That is true. So let me ask you this. So since you asked Kaylor, it's my turn to ask Morrissey a question. So when you look at how much of a swivel was your head on, John, when you're looking at all of these matches with all the USL Championship teams playing other divisions, USLC on USLC crime that happened in the last 2 days? How many monitors did you have going at once with all the USLC activity?
Well, I have to tell you, whenever I see one of those matchups that's like New Mexico, Phoenix, or Sacramento, Oakland, there's not a prayer I'm watching that. I'm going to get that in 2 weeks in the league. It's so much more interesting when you've got something like a Memphis, Atlanta, or even that Chicago House, Chicago Fire game until it got ugly. I like to see the diversity of matchups a bit, but that doesn't mean I'm not just full whiplash the whole time that these matches are going on.
Yep. And then you also made the point that that sometimes when you're watching games, that there's still production value that needs to be addressed. It's on Morrissey's Twitter at USL Tactics, by the way. The 9-second screen cap of the Fun House at Segra with Flower City and Loudon, and I really don't know how else to describe it. Could you, John, try to explain what that was that was on camera for a while? I mean, it almost looked like a Funhouse boomerang 2-camera dissolve mirror kind of a thing.
Yeah, so to the best of my ability, it looked like you had one camera on the left side of the pitch that was probably at a 30 to 45 degree angle, so that was bad to begin with. And then you've got another camera doing the same thing on the other half of the field, and you've split the screen halfway between the two feeds. They don't match up well, so like if someone's standing at the halfway line, they're on both sides of the screen at once.
Wow.
It was a little bit bizarre, but magic of the Open Cup, I guess.
The thing is that I've never had an issue with Loudon's camera work. They were one of the few stadiums that I was like actually really happy. I don't know why they got experimental for no reason.
I mean, it was. Let's just say it was interesting when John posted that to his Twitter when we're talking about the magic of the Open Cup and having these kinds of moments. And to Coco's
did you see that the U.S. Open Cup doesn't know what geography is?
Shock and awe! I can't believe that.
Philadelphia is grouped with Chicago Fire, Minnesota, and St. Louis. This is the same people, I think, who put the Atlanta Falcons in the West.
I mean, it's kind of the thing that I don't think they've ever explicitly said after the third round that it's geography based. They try, but I don't think they've ever promised. I don't think it's actually written in the rules that they say we will make this as geographical. Geographical?
No, hey,
possible.
That's true. That's
we're making new words.
That's a great word, Kaylor. It's a fantastic word. It is geographical. It is the magic of the Open Cup because you try to be geographical about it and you end up with, yes, geography is involved. It just happens to deal with hundreds of miles and plane rides and things like that. No, I think you're spot on. I think you're right there. Jarrett, pick a partner. Who are you tagging in with your next thought?
Oh my God. Good Lord. Okay. Let's go. I'll actually open this up to both of you. What the hell happened with Seattle in the Open Cup last night?
I'll go ahead and just step in a little bit. I mean, I think you saw the effect of that was a very young Seattle Sounders team. Like it was a mix of guys that I associate with like the Tacoma Defiance more than Seattle in a lot of ways. And San Diego brought out probably an A- team. Joe Corona had 2 goals, obviously. And this is a good San Diego Loyal. They have a very distinct style. They've got a very good manager who knows how to tackle an opponent. They did have a game on Sunday, so that's short rest for them. And to go and do what they did was impressive. But I am going to chalk it up mostly to the fact that Seattle maybe came in a little bit too confident that they could get it done with some of the rotation guys.
All right, Kaylor. So biggest storyline involving a USL championship team or several storylines when it comes to this particular round of Open Cup would be what in your mind?
For me, John knows this. I've been highly obsessed with Monterey Bay, and for them to get the 1-0 victory over
As
San
you
Jose.
say it to Jarrett, who is our resident Quakes fan.
I had a bad week, y'all.
I've been massively obsessed with Monterey Bay this year, just the way they play. I mean, John has posted the graphics several times. Have you seen the graphics of like the Tampa Bay Rays just being so much better than everybody else? This is Monterey Bay season that their conversion rate's like 30, like 30%, and it's ridiculous. And on top of that, they've had kind of poor goalkeeping performances, but they also just continue to make every shot. And then against San Jose, they kind of figure it out while also taking advantage of one of their few chances, keeping that conversion rate as high as possible. It was really fun to watch them. And I said it preseason, I'm still going to stay with it. Monterey Bay is still my sneaky dark horse for the USL Cup. And I don't know how much farther it's going to take them in the U.S. Open Cup, but I mean, if they can keep a 30% conversion rate, they're going to give it to someone.
Well, just to jump in real quick on that Monterey point, when they were bad to start last season as an expansion team, and when they finally found their footing, it was very much a defense-first sort of thing, and they looked like they rediscovered that aspect of their game against San Jose. I think the other fun storyline with that one was the revenge of Frank Gallup getting the win against the Earthquakes. So plenty to like with that Monterey San Jose game.
And I know that we've got groups and things coming out when it comes to the next rounds and next stages. We talk about storylines in Monterey Bay. Biggest disappointment from USL Championship. John, we'll start with you. Biggest disappointment in this tournament so far to date. You can take any rounds up to this point, since we're talking Open Cup in general. Who's been the biggest disappointment for you from the USL Championship in this tournament?
I think 2 things pop to mind. Certainly in the last round for FC Tulsa to roll out a lineup with 5 or 6 teenagers and get upset by Tulsa Athletic on one of the worst looking pitches you're ever going to see.
Fantastic pitch.
Oh, and you know what? That was the game where whoever was on the camera was putting their hand in front of the upper part to block out the sun so there wasn't glare.
That's what you have interns for.
Right. But I think in terms of a result that really stung, it's got to be Louisville dropping it to Cincinnati last night. because they were taking it to them for so much of that game, I would say they had the better chances, especially in that second half when they brought on Wilson Harris, brought on Ray Serrano. And then Cincinnati gets this really crushing late goal in what was one of the best rivalry matchups in USL history when they were facing off in the league. So Louisville can hold their head high based on how they played, but that one really stings because that was a team that felt like they could make a run in this tournament.
Kaylor, what about you? Biggest disappointments?
Can I throw out one that's not the championship?
Sure.
Ford Madison losing the house is shocking. Ford Madison has the best defense, the best back line in all of League One. And they just kind of roll it out there. Same thing. They just kind of rotated the team and they just assumed that it would work against, this is a house squad that kept a lot of their NISA players. They didn't lose a whole lot of them. So they were essentially going against a third division or, a fourth division plus a third division minus. And then they rolled out a fourth division minus squad. And it's like, why aren't you taking this seriously? You saw what Union Omaha did last year, and you saw what Tormenta did for a little bit last year. You take it seriously, especially since there's a three-way tie for the third division this year. Imagine if they could have just gotten that to play against Chicago Fire, because if they would have, honestly, for the little bit that House was keeping it even, I think a full strength Madison at least keeps it close for the first half, and after that, who knows what happens.
So does that mean that each team gets $8,300? Is that how that plays?
And 33 cents. Somebody has to eat the penny.
Okay. I think the league eats the penny.
It's adjusted for inflation, John.
Yes.
Yeah.
And to your point, you talk about Tormenta last year. They should have beat Inter Miami. Drake Callender stood on his head in that game. It should have been 3-0 Tormenta at halftime of that game. And especially to your point, like you see what Union Omaha did. You saw what Sacramento did last year, getting to the final. And so many of these teams have, especially now, the talent to go out there and punch someone in the face. Mm-hmm. Go do it.
Yeah. And we're looking forward to seeing who gets to punch folks in the face from the lower divisions as we go in Open Cup. John Morrissey at USL Tactics and at Kaylor Hodges with at the USL Show hanging out with us, as they always do here, the last Thursday of the month, where they give their breakdown of everything USL here on SDH. Guys, what I like to do with other guests is it's almost like playing cliffhanger on The Price is Right, but we call it red light, yellow light, green light. Like, you wander up to that four-way stop. There's actually a stoplight there. You have to pay attention to the stoplight. And you go, okay, red light, yellow light, green light. We know what it means to go through that intersection. So my next question for both of you, and it's going to be fairly simple. When it comes to USL Championship, and you can take it to include Open Cup play or not, what is the team that you have a red light on? What is the team that you have a yellow light on? Basically, you're kind of sitting there going, I don't know. Could go either way. And what team do you have a green light on? Morrissey, let's start with you. What direction do you want to go first? Do you want to start with your green light, or do you want to start with your red light? Do you want to go optimism or pessimism? How do you want to start?
I'd love to start with a green light, because that was the one that really inspired me here. And I'm going to go green light with El Paso Locomotive in the Western Conference.
Wow.
This is a team that lost in the last round, wasn't even playing last night in the Open. But in terms of the league, they've won 3 out of their last 4. All of the new signings that they brought in, their new manager, the manager first and foremost, Brian Clairhout, is looking very astute in what he's doing with these mid-game adjustments to kind of take it to whatever opposition he's facing. He brought in a lot of players who didn't have USL experience. I'm thinking about Denis Kostyshin from the Ukrainian league, Mark Navarro, who has played games in La Liga but is really often injured. And every one of these players is hitting in a way that it took a couple weeks. El Paso lost their first 3 games of the year, But now that they're finding their form, they really look like a force to be reckoned with in the West.
Kaylor, Hodges, green light.
I mean, this one feels layup. I mean, Sacramento, they're just so good. It's gross. They've only allowed 1 goal in league play. And then if you include the Open Cup, it looks a little worse. They've, allowed 4 goals, I think, in the Open Cup, but that all came in one match where it was just weird Bizarro land. I mean, they're just so ridiculously good with a top-tier striker in Russell Cicerone and one of the best back lines I've seen in a little bit. I say that like San Antonio didn't exist last year. But, I mean, comparable, which I didn't think I would say.
Yellow light. Kaylor, since John started with the green light, Kaylor, what's your yellow light? And what I mean by this is there a team that you can kind of go either way on? Who's kind of sitting there and wobbling right now and, maybe needs a pit stop to try to figure something out?
I'm going to go with Oakland.
Okay.
Oakland has right now the best keeper in the league with Blanchett, and he's really carrying that squad right now, and the rest of the team is looking okay. Mm-hmm. They are getting results from time to time, but they are still looking for a bona fide goal scorer and a real threat in the midfield. And I think that if they can find someone to click mid-season, they can be a real contender. But right now, I'm not quite there yet.
Yellow light, Morrissey, who do you have?
Yeah, I mean, after last night, I think I got to go with Memphis 901. They started horrendously this year, but they've not lost in 3 in the league. I think getting Philip Goodrum a goal last night, getting the momentum of upsetting an MLS team, a Southern rival, is going to be a big deal for them. Watching that Tyler Wolff goal, seeing some of the moments in the game, I'm not sold on what they're doing defensively. But if they can keep up what they were doing for a lot of that match, I think that they're going to be right back where they were last season.
Red light, Morrissey, who do you have?
Yeah, I'm going to point to my Indy 11 here. I'm born and raised in Indianapolis. I've got a soft spot for the team. They look like a disaster right now. 3 straight losses in the league. They can hardly score a goal. Last night against Columbus, they dropped the game in Columbus. They were trying a new sort of man-marking thing in the midfield that was pretty disastrous. No matter what they're throwing at the wall, it's not working. So red for a team with a red logo.
Red, Kaylor, who do you have?
This is going to seem like a really hot take after last night's victory, but I am all the way out on New Mexico right now. If they keep starting Tim Bacchus in goal and not starting Ford Parker, it's almost reaching the point of Hartford level with Richard Sanchez, where I feel like they're actively trying to lose games by starting him. And, Santi Moar and Hurst are really good players, obviously, but they haven't done anything to really give them a chance to succeed. And as long as they keep starting Tim Bacchus, I'm just all the way out on New Mexico.
That is your
Atlanta United legend, Alex Tambakis.
That is absolutely true.
He's the first ever signing for Atlanta United.
And
only played 1 game, and it was a game against Minnesota in 2017 where Brad Guzan was away on international duty. Alec Can was hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Reynes started and got sent off on just a really dumb tackle. And then Alex Tambakis had to play, get down a man, and Minnesota scored 2 goals in like 8 minutes of stoppage time to win the game. That's the only time he played for the first team.
That is true. That is absolutely true. And folks in the Twitch pitch actually remember Atlanta United hero Alex Tambakis. Jared, what's on your mind on the Fatal 4-Way?
Yeah, I mean, it's I know you because I was going to ask you about New Mexico, and just what the hell they're doing. Feels like a very fair question. I guess, as far as the teams in this cup who you're looking at as being, aside from Sacramento, who I would assume would always already be in that conversation of teams to make a deep run. For those who aren't watching USL Championship, who should they be tuning in for US Open Cup to look for a cup set?
I mean, I know Kaylor just mentioned them. it's kind of the obvious pick because they were finalists last season, but it's got to be the Sacramento Republic.
But is that a cup set, though?
I think every time a USL team wins, it is, maybe.
Yeah.
Biggest league in
when
the
a
world.
lower division team wins, it's a cup set.
All right.
It is a cop-out, but...
All right.
No, I think and I'm happy to have that. I'm happy to have that part of it too. Like, I mean, you can call it a cop out if you want to, but it's not Sacramento's fault. They've got a good system going.
It's the way that they can sit back, bunker down within their own half, and defend just so effectively, so efficiently. They never feel like they're in danger, even if they've got 30% possession across the whole match. And within the USL this season, they've really shown some growth as a team that can dominate the ball and beat you by outscoring you. But that defense is their identity, and it's the reason they made the final last season. So combining those two effects, I think they've got a really good shot to make another run this year.
All right.
I think a team that I got to see firsthand, and they are a wild experience, and that's Loudoun United. I know they went against Flower City, who's not good this year, but the Loudoun United experience is insane, considering the fact, and I've talked about this a lot, they only have 5 people on the team older than me. I'm 23.
Okay.
And they shoot so much. They get a sliver of goal, a sliver of opening, and they just shoot. They are a wild experience because you expect them to try to take a touch to get a little bit closer to goal or to create a bigger opening. They don't care. And I think I said this on the last USL show. They're young and dumb enough to not care. They will go into these big crowds. They will go into these places and just not be afraid because that part of their brain has not developed. And like they are a wild experience. And if it's the first time you're playing them, which for every MLS team, it will be.
Yeah.
I think they are going to be a hard out and will catch a lot of teams off guard.
Yeah, I remember I watched the first game they had this year against Memphis and thinking like, Memphis after last year, I know they had some changes. I know, John, we talked about it last time you were on about all the changes that went on in Memphis. But Loudoun rolled in there and just took a dead fish and started beating them over the head with it. It was wild. But to Kaylor's point, like, it reminds me of kind of like Christos, and I think it was 2017 or 18.
Yeah.
Christos was too dumb to care.
Yeah.
They were too dumb to be afraid.
Question from our viewer in Australia, Bam, who is an LAFC fan. What USL Championship team should he be watching from Australia? So basically, if you're new to this whole thing, I know, Kaylor, you've suggested Loudoun, being young and dumb. I know, John, you've suggested Sacramento because, of what they've done in Open Cup. For Bam, when he sets his VPNs in Australia, who should he be watching in USL Championship?
Well, I do need to give a quick shout again to Loudoun because their breakout star this year, Panos Samarakis, is Australian. He's the guy who's driving all this. Yeah. Boy, off the top of my head, and just to make another Australia connection, I know Liam Rose with El Paso is from Australia, and I think he, unlike Armanakis, played in the A-League or a similar setup there. So those are two teams that play very exciting offense-first styles of soccer that I think would be fun. If you're in it for just up and down, exciting action, San Diego Loyola are a really good shout as well. They play an insanely high press. Their goalkeeper is willing to just stand out outside of the box and possess with the ball at his feet all of the time.
And his name is Koke Vegas.
There you go. Yeah, Koke Vegas is amazing, right? They also have some New Zealand connections with Kyle Adams and Elliot Collier in the squad. So I know I'm keeping it Anzac there. So that would be my pitch.
Nothing wrong with that. That's because right now it is, I think Bam is 14 hours ahead of us. So he's actually watching us before he goes to bed. And so this is Friday. I think this is this Thursday? 12. Okay. So 12:25 in the morning on Friday. So Bam's watching us before he goes to bed every single night. So he gets full credit for putting up with us as much as he does. 5-minute warning. Kaylor, who is your league MVP right now? Obviously, this will change month to month. Who's your league MVP right now and why?
Man, there's a lot of really good ones this year. Just because of how freaking valuable he is to his team, I'm going to Blanchett again. I'm a big USL Western Conference guy today, apparently. Blanchett is single-handedly keeping the Roots alive, and there's no one more valuable to their team this year than him.
So Blanchett is their miracle grow. I get it. Morrissey, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to throw out two names here because I can't decide on anything. One would have to be Alex Dixon. He's leading the Golden Boot race for Monterey Bay. He's the signing of the offseason without a doubt. I think my my pick for the deep cut here would be Luis Felipe with Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
They've got some volume goal scorers. Their defense stands out. His play in the central midfield, his ability to make those late runs into the box, but also track back when they need to recover on the counter is immense. I think he's the unsung hero. He's a guy with some MLS experience in San Jose, but he's really the bedrock of what the Republic have done this year.
Jarrett, what else is on your mind?
Well, I was looking up to see where Rose had played, because if he had played at South Melbourne, everything was going to make more sense, because South Melbourne had Ferenc Puskás, the Hungarian legend, coached South Melbourne for a while and kind of had them back in the early 90s playing almost a suicidal style. So I was wondering, if he came from there, everything makes more sense. Rose did not play for them. Played for Sydney United 58, MacArthur FC.
There you go.
Anyway, digress.
King of the sidebar.
Yeah, dude. It's always a sidebar.
See, that never happens on this show.
Jesus. No, it doesn't. I guess looking around at the rest of the Eastern, I guess we'll stick in the Eastern Conference, looking with it. Let's look at the top, and I mean, is it just as simple as I think last time y'all were here, we talked about what Pyramid's done in Charleston. Is it just as simple as they're just going to keep plugging along until someone punches them in the mouth, or are they just decided?
Is Charleston for real?
I think so, but there's hints of their back line being really shaky that give me a little bit of hesitancy to think that they might finish in first this year. Okay. But they're absolutely going to be up there for the USL Cup. I think they're going to be real deal contenders. Whether they'll finish first or not, I'm not sure. But they have all the attack you could ever want. They don't have to really worry about their back line too often because of just the way they press and just the way that they kind of stick with the, if they don't have the ball, they can't score the ball. Well, that's not true. They did have one of the worst own goals I've ever seen a couple weeks ago. But I think they're legit, but I don't know if they'll finish first.
Morrissey, what's going on in Tampa?
Yeah, they started the year with Leo Fernandez, the reigning MVP, getting injured. Lewis Hilton, very important central midfield player, has missed some time. They had a really dumb and bad experiment with a 4-4-2 when their identity is based around that back three and always has been. I think in terms of the form, they're picking up a bit, even if the results aren't quite there yet. There's too much talent for me to be out on this team, but they're going to need to hit the ground running pretty quickly, given that we're rapidly approaching the quarter mark of the year in the USL.
What he said. Gentlemen, as always, it's great to have you on. It's at Kaylor Hodges, Kaylor, Hodges, Hodges, and at USL Tactics, and at the USL in big letters show. At Kaylor Hodges, at USL Tactics, at the USL Show. As always, hanging out with us to begin hour number 2 for the last Thursday of the month. Guys, when does the next show come out?
Next Tuesday. And we have our kit show that should be dropping tomorrow.
Ooh, kit show. We always like kits. So, guys, as always, thanks for hanging out with us and playing our silly games and answering our silly questions when it comes to everything USL Championship. We will catch up with you again next month. Don't ever be afraid to crash the party. It's always great to have you guys here. Thanks for hanging out with us here on SDH.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
That's it.
Take care, y'all.
That's it for Morrissey and Hodges. They get to hang out with us, and then they sit there and they wonder why they get to hang out with us, because they go, dude, those guys are nuts.